The Utah Jazz are a team that has had some very much undesirable outcomes to their games. More recently, they've been better, but at the very beginning of the season, it was a very rough stretch of basketball. That said, there have been a few bright spots, and while we've covered some of them on this channel, one person that I don't think has been giving their due praise is Brice Sensabaugh. If you're new to the channel, it's your boy Wraith Hoops. Go and smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. And without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into the reasons of why. Fresh off a 25-minute outing against the Philadelphia 76ers in which we lost 111 to 114, Brice Sensabaugh put up 25-2 with just one turnover while shooting 6 of 9 from the field, 3 of 5 from three-point range, and 5 of 5 from the free throw line, giving him a true shooting percentage of 89.3. That was the catalyst for this video because I just wanted to go out and show what a player that has been a dark horse for a level of appreciation looks like. And Brice Sensabaugh embodies that to me, especially this season. His minutes have been up and down, and there hasn't really been much consistent expectation for the amount of play that he'll be able to have on any night in, night out basis. One game he plays 9 minutes, one game he plays 12 minutes, one game he DNPs, the next minute he plays 25 minutes. It's just been so up and down, and the injuries of course are part of it, but at the same time I feel like he's been drawing an unfair stick at times. And considering the fact that the team is going extremely young and playing a bunch of the young guys and giving a lot of those guys opportunities, I figured Brice, because he didn't have as much expectation, he would end up getting put on the back burner. But this has been a little bit unsatisfactory even by my expectations of the situation. However, nevertheless, he has greatly overproduced in most of the minutes that he has been allotted in any rotation. So far, he's played in 24 games this season, averaging 16.8 minutes, which is down from the 18.3 that he averaged in 32 minutes at the end of last season. And overall, he's averaging 8.1 points, which is up from his 7.5 of last year. He's averaging slightly less rebounds. Last year was 3.2, this year 2.5. He's averaging 1.3 assists, 0.6 steals, 0.1 blocks, and shooting 45.3% from the field and 39.8% from three-point range, along with 91.3% from the free throw line. Now, the free throws are basically in line with last year. Last year, he shot on 1.3 attempts, 90.2%. This season, on just one attempt a game, he does have that 91.3%. However, from three-point range and overall field goal percentage, he's night and day better. And he's shooting it on basically the same number of field goal attempts. Last season, he shot 6.8 field goal attempts and shot 39% from the field. And out of those field goal attempts, 3.6 of them were three-pointers. And he ended up shooting 29.6% from three-point range, which by all metrics is absolutely terrible. It's horrible. And overall, 39, 30, and 90 splits are not great. Now, for a rookie and a guy that wasn't expected to do much at all, that might give you a little bit of wiggle room and a little bit of leeway to say, well, it's acceptable at this point in his career. But coming into this season, there was going to be a little bit of a make it or break it kind of energy about it. Because yes, you have guys like Walker Kessler who had a regression season or a season where they just didn't take a step forward. You have Keontae George and his expectations being high, and honestly higher than most because he's been thrust into that starting point guard role and they want to commit but they don't have enough to guarantee it. But Brice Sensabaugh has been an afterthought in many ways, and he has to prove that he deserves to play in games with the Utah Jazz. And even if he isn't an integral piece to the core, can he provide you with solid minutes when guys go down with injury or when you just need a little bit of a change, a little bit of a jolt off the bench? Can you find that in him? And I'm inclined to say yes. Because this season, on 6.3 field goal attempts, you have that 45.3%. That's a 6% uptick on 0.5 less field goal attempts per game. Similarly, from three-point range, he's up 0.3 attempts per game, from 3.6 up to 3.9. And he jumped a whole 10.2% in three-point percentage. And on 3.9, basically 4 attempts a game, he's played in 24 games. That's a quarter of the season, and that's a very strong sample size of three-pointer attempts. That's effectively almost 100 three-pointers to date, and he's shooting darn near 40% from beyond the arc. And while most people may say, yes, the Utah Jazz don't have great expectations for them, they're supposed to be tanking, so of course he's going to have open looks, he's going to have opportunities because nobody expects him to can those things. And while you may be right about that, there's also something to say about once the data says that you are a decent shooter, people are going to close out. All of your attempts are not going to be wide open. And most of his have not been wide open. A lot of them have been an extra swing, an extra kick, and him just being available, making himself prepared. A couple of them off the dribble, of course, as well, because we know that's an element to his game that he loves to work on. And at 6'5" and roughly 230, that's something that he's going to try and do his utmost to get an easy bucket. But I still believe that these are quality shots that he's taking and quality shots that he's making. And if you're looking at a world where Jordan Clarkson does eventually get offloaded, or John Collins gets offloaded, or the roster just undergoes a little bit more of an alteration going into next season, you're going to see a world where I believe Brice Sensabaugh's skill set will be usable. Defensively, he's not nearly the issue that he once was. You can put him out on the floor and genuinely enjoy watching him play. You don't have to see somebody ISO him and be like, oh dear God, it's over, we're cooked. Because that doesn't happen as much anymore. Now, does he have his lapses in judgment? Does he play the passing lanes a little too hard at times? Does his awareness sometimes struggle? Yes, of course, but those are second-year NBA player mistakes to make, and when he doesn't have as much of a leash as everybody else or as high expectations, we can honestly deal with those and play it by ear while also giving him the opportunity to make up for those mistakes and show us what he's truly doing. And honestly, after spending the majority of his rookie season in the G League and then coming up to the NBA and playing real reps, I did kind of expect him to shoot a little bit better from the field, especially at the end of the season on the tanking roster where he was getting a buttload of minutes at different points in time. But at the same time, I'm not necessarily mad because he used last offseason, came into this season, and not only is he taking efficient shots, he's shooting them at a very high clip. Again, 45% from three from a second-year player on 4 attempts a game is nothing to scoff at. That is a very large sample size. And considering the fact that we're 25 games into the season, 30 games into the season, I don't think that there's a world where he ends up regressing. Now, he could have a cold stretch coming, and I'm very much open to that. But thus far, it doesn't seem like it's coming on anytime soon. In the month of December alone, on 17.5 minutes a game, he's averaging 8, 2.5, and 2.5 to go along with 45.6% shooting from the field and 35.7% from three on 3.8 attempts. So even though he's had a couple games where he's gone 1 for 4, one game in particular when we lost against the Clippers, he ended up going 1 for 7, which really tanks his percentages overall because the only other rough games he has is 1 0 for 3 effort and 1 for 4 effort. And then you have a couple games where he goes 0 for 2 or 0 for 1. But overall, most of his games are the 3 for 5s, the 1 of 2s, the 3 of 4s, the 3 of 6s, and even a 2 of 6 efforts mixed in there. So the shooting is definitely there, and he's been healthy and available to play. He doesn't really show up on injury reports, and there's no word about him getting moved down to the G League. So it's reasonable to assume that not only is he going to stay with the Utah Jazz main roster, but he's also going to get a large number of opportunities to just showcase who he genuinely is as a player and what his case is in stating his case for being a main cog in the machine for the roster going forward, even if they don't ever consider him to be that guy. At the very least, I think that he could definitely fill it up from a role similar to Jordan Clarkson. At times, he could be a spot starter in my eyes, but that still remains to be seen, and I don't want to overstep my bounds by expecting something from him that we can't yet guarantee, so maybe I'll end up revising this take later on this season, but nevertheless, I do believe that Brice Sensabaugh will be a mainstay, and I did want to shout out the level of play that he has been producing despite his minutes going from anywhere from 11 all the way up to 25 in his most recent game. With that being said though, it's your boy Ray Tubes. Let me know what you think about Brice Sensabaugh. Let me know what other players you want me to cover. Go ahead and like the video, subscribe, and turn on post notifications, or drop a donation or become a member to help support the content and get videos faster than anybody else. And without any further ado, good morning, good evening, and good night, no matter where you're in the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys